when we talked about the nose. I put these guidelines up to show you again that if we go by the width of the nose, right where the nostrils are, and not every single face is the same, the nostrils are probably going to line up pretty much where those tear ducts are. Now, some people's faces are not going to follow all the rules. These are just guidelines to help you. So if you look at your picture, 9 times out of 10, the edges of the nostrils line up with the tear ducts. But when we start moving on to the mouth, and I'm going to move this over just so it is, if it decides to come and move over, I'm going to move it over to the corner of the mouth. I'm going to move the other one down to the corner of the mouth, really where the lips start. And if we go by the corners of the mouth, one thing you're going to notice is this lines up kind of with the color part of the eye. All right? Her mouth is a little open. She's not really smiling, so her mouth is not as wide as it can be. If she was smiling, it would be wider. But this is a pretty relaxed pose, and if you look at it, it lines up with the color parts of her eyes. We go to this one over here. Again, I put these already out to the edges of where his lips start. Okay, his face is a little bit on an angle, but if you notice on this side, it's hitting pretty much right where that color part of the eye starts. On this side, it's a little bit short of that, but again, his face is turned a little bit. These are ones that we looked at earlier. Her face, if I look at where it lines up on the nostrils line up very nicely pretty much to those tear ducts. But if I go to the corners of the mouth and she has big, full lips, you still see that, okay, they really kind of stay just about where that color part of the eye is inside of that. Now, not every face is going to be exactly the same, all right? Everybody's faces are a little bit different. You know, it's not going to be exactly on that, and your sculpture isn't exactly, set to that. But one of the things I want to keep as far as a guideline is your mouth shouldn't be wider than this middle part of your eye. Okay? If you look at where the center of his eye is, that pupil, you can see that the corners of his mouth are far inward. They're wider than the nose, but they are inside the centers of your eyeballs. I'm going to do this face as my example over here. I'm going to go with his, and again, the corners of his mouth. You're going to see his mouth is pretty wide, and it's really still just kind of hitting that color part of the eye on our angle. All right, I'm going to put this to the side and pick this up. Now, one of the things we talked about when we were looking at faces is that we were saying about when we have the eyes and then our chin, basically halfway down is going to be the bottom of that nose. Now, not everybody's exactly perfect, but that's pretty close to halfway. The upper lip, for most people, especially if you're doing a slightly more masculine face, is going to be that the upper lip is going to be smaller from the nose to that lip than the bottom lip is to the chin. So that's one of the things we have to keep in mind when we're building our actual face. So in this case, when I'm looking at how long his face is, where the nose is compared to where his chin is going to be, I've got to say that his lips are going to be a bit higher up than where he started to make that upper lip. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to kind of peel some of this away, especially on the bottom end. You don't have to have all that material on there right now. If you do, it's okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus in on that upper lip. I'm going to go ahead and take just that flesh color clay, make sure it's nice and wedged. I'm going to take a decent amount over here, roll it out just so it's kind of round, all right? We want to still keep it relatively thick, and then I'm just going to start flattening it out. I'm building right now a new sort of upper lip area, all right? I want to take a look and see that it's going to fill in right underneath the nose, and if it's a little bit too long, like mine's starting to get, I'll just go ahead and chop off a little bit of material. Now, we did do a practice of these a long time ago when we were making our lips, okay? When we made that one, what we wanted to do is we wanted to keep the bottom very rounded. So this bottom part where my thumb is going to be the actual upper lip. I don't want to make it too thin. I want to make sure it keeps that nice plump roundness. I also want to make sure that the center part of this, that's going to be right underneath the center of the nose, stays a little bit higher up than the outside edges. And if you remember back from when we practiced before, I just kind of flattened some of that out a little bit with my fingertips. I'm going to go ahead and sort of position that on as my upper lip, press it in a little bit, and on the outside edges, these are the edges that I'm going to sort of press into the face. Okay? And I'm going to blend that into the cheeks and I'm going to make that outside part a little thinner, and if I have a lot of extra material over there, that's something where I can kind of get rid of a little bit, just kind of push it off to the edges and lose it. Now, with the middle part over here, what I'd like to do is, before I do any of the finishing of the lips, I want to get in there and I want to sort of blend that into that septum, that center part of the nostrils. All right, so I want to get in there and use that round tip tool and just kind of get rid of the edge of the sculpting part, smooth it out a little bit, try to do all that little bit of detail work now before I do too much other detail on the actual lip. If I can get my finger in there, that works a little bit better. If not, do the best you can with the tool. And then again, right there lined up on the septum of this sculpture, this face, we want to take our tool and we want to make a little bit of an indent. Okay? It doesn't have to be a very deep indent, but we do have that center split in the lip. Some faces it's deeper and more pronounced, others it's a little bit more subtle, but we need to have that. Now, I've kept the middle part of this lip in pretty good condition. I haven't flattened it out or anything, but what I do want to do is I want to kind of just take my thumbs, and on each side of it I just want to sort of bring that little edges right next to the center up a little bit. Just kind of rotating them up a little bit. I still want to keep that rounded part in the center, but I'm using my fingertips to kind of lift up those edges of the lips. Okay? At this point, in all honesty, you know what, less is more, and this is pretty much a decent upper lip. You don't have to worry too much on the outside edges. Again, you want to kind of keep them sort of rounded. One thing you might want to kind of consider is, okay, approximately how wide am I going to make these? If I'm looking at his eye and I'm coming straight down, I can give myself just a little hint at how wide his mouth should be. I think I should be no further than the marks that I just made over there. I'm going to get some more flesh tone clay. I'm going to work on the lower lip. Okay, for the lower lip, I'll take a ball of clay, and then again, roll it out. When you roll it out on the table. How thick should you make it? Well, number one, we should be rough fitting it. When I mean rough fitting is kind of checking it out first. Now, it looks giant over here, but what's important is not how it looks right now from the front, but how it looks from the side. We want that lower lip either to be at the same level as the upper lip or in a little bit. This is a little too far out for me, so I'm going to go ahead and make this just a little bit thinner. Okay? You're going to have to make that judgment on your own based on your actual sculpture. I'm going to look at it now. It kind of comes in a little bit more. I think that's much better. Now, for the outside edges, I want to keep that middle part nice and thick. So when I'm rolling this on the table, I want to roll just the outside ends of this and start making those ends a little bit thinner. So this thing ends up kind of being just thick in the center and a little bit thinner out to the sides. Now, it's going to make the thing longer, which, again, I'm going to have more material than I need, but it's more important that I maintain that thickness out in the center and the thinness out there, and I can continue to like rough fit it and see how that works. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and make the outside edges on mine a little bit thinner. Okay? But again, I'm staying away from the middle. I don't want it to just be one giant bulge in the middle. You see how it subtly sort of tapers off? I'm going to rough fit that in. At this point, I think I'm pretty happy with what I have. I have a lot of extra material here on the outside. I'm going to think about where the width of my mouth is going to be, and I'm going to just kind of press some of that into the face, sort of rip a little bit off. Again, I'm going to do that on the outside edge on this side. What you should be doing is looking to see, getting rid of some of that extra material. It's totally appropriate if it's a little too wide, a little too long. Right now, he's a little bit of the Joker. It's too long towards the edges over here. So what I want to do is I want to kind of blend a little bit of those top and bottom lips together. Okay? I can always blend more in together and make the mouth a little smaller. It's harder to make the mouth wider after the fact. You have to go in there with the tools, and 9 times out of 10, I don't think it looks that great. So I'm going to go ahead and blend a little bit of that. If you can't do it with your finger, you can always get in there with the tool and kind of connect it. But again, we should be looking that the corners of this mouth should kind of line up maybe inside of those pupils a little bit. I'm going to leave mine a little bit wider because his face is a little bit wider. When you're adding the lower lip, what I'm going to tell you is always work from the outside in. So from the outside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press a little bit of this in. Okay? Blend that into his cheek and what will ultimately be his chin. All right? I'm going to try to do that as symmetrical as I possibly can. All right? I don't want to lose the thickness of the center. All right, so again, when I'm blending in here, I'm taking a little less material. We can always continue to blend and make the lower lip less full. Like, he doesn't have big, pouty, full lips, so that's, again, something to keep in mind. We can always make that a little thinner looking by just blending more clay in, but it's hard to add more material in there. It's really like pull them off and just redo them. And once I'm done with this and I'm satisfied with where it is at, then I can start working on kind of filling in the chin a little bit. I don't think his particular chin has to be any longer, but I do think that we have to add a little bit material to go forward. Another thing that you might want to do at this point also, once you're done with the mouth, is you're going to see that just like we had before, the cheeks, you know, some people have dimples, some don't, but we all do have cheek muscles that sort of sweep into the face here. So we're going to want to add a little bit material on this outside edge. This is going to be kind of like where his mustache stops. The rest of his face kind of connects in. Some people have more, some people have less. He's got a pretty slender face. That being said, he still has a little bit more material to the left and the right of that. So I'm going to just go ahead and add a little bit on this side. Probably he'll have to fill in a little bit on the jaw, and he's going to add a little bit more on the other side. I'm going to switch over now and do a slightly different face, and this is going to be with the colored clay. Okay, I'll set that up right over here. We've decided on a piece of that colored clay, which right over here. Go, take it, go. We're working here. I think there's still a little bit of work to do on her nose, and I'm not going to go and spend a ton of time on that, but we'll try to fix that up a little bit as we're working later on. But again, we want to kind of start off with some soft clay, and we do want to build up a little bit of that upper lip first. So I'm going to use just a flesh tone clay right now. I'm going to look for a little piece to add in here for the upper lip. Because she's going to have a relatively short upper lip, I'll make this a little bit thinner. Okay. It's going to look like a little bit of a mustache right now. I'm going to pat that in. Okay. Flatten it a little bit between my fingers, trying to keep the center of it a little thicker, just like I did for the DeGrom sculpture that I just did, the male face. Okay. I'm going to kind of set that in a little bit. I'm going to push that in a little bit. And now what I'd like to do is, before I start adding that and putting that all together, I'm going to go ahead and take some of my lip color that I just made. I mixed this together with the flesh tone, a little bit of pink, and a little bit of brown. So that's how I got this color. We're not going to need a ton of it, all right, to make the full mouth. I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of that, and I'm going to roll it out. We don't have to make this piece super duper big or thick. In fact, when I put this together right over here and I look at it right now, and I look at it how wide these are, I'm going to take a look at her particular picture and see that corners of her mouth, she does have pretty wide lips, but again, her lips kind of fall in again the same way I've showed you all the rest of them. They're just about the width of our color part of our eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller and a little bit shorter. Guys, just bear with me for a minute. We're getting there. I know it's a little bit of a process, but I'm doing 2 long demos. All right, so I've got that lip part. What I want to do is I want to kind of blend a little bit of that into our upper lip. I'm going to get my tool right now, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start blending that upper lip that I made, the flesh part. I'm going to blend that stuff in, getting in there and trying to get in those little areas in and around the nose and work that in. Okay, once again, there's going to be that little split in the lip. Okay, we're going to go ahead and make that little indent. She has pretty pouty lips, so I'm going to kind of press in a little bit more over here and just kind of make a little bit of that ridge of the lips stick out. Okay, now what I'm going to do for the color part of the lips is I'm just going to slowly sort of blend them in and kind of shape them into the lips that I want. Okay, so we're going to slowly push up on those sides. Once again, just like we did in the past, if they had no color in them whatsoever, I'd be kind of working a little bit of the center part so it sticks down, and then pushing up some of the corners. I can carefully kind of press the edge of that color part of the lip into my flesh, and if I have to, I can even use my tool a little bit to just kind of blend it in. Okay? You want to be careful when you're adding the color part over here. If you, overly smear it into the skin, it generally kind of doesn't look great. So be careful what you're doing. Use the tool sparingly. Try to work within your fingers. And again, kind of push those in. Pushing the sides in as well. I'm just going to kind of reshape that top part of the mouth. Again, just like we did before, the only difference on this one is that I'm really just adding that color part to it. I'm going to go ahead and take the bottom part. I'm going to make the whole bottom right now out of the color. Same thing applies as what I was doing before. We want to make sure it's nice and thick. When I put it in over here, I want to make sure that it doesn't stick out further than the upper lip. A lot of times it'll be at least flush with it, or it goes in ever so slightly. I want to take a look at how long it is right now. I think my bottom lip's going to be a little bit too long, but I do have to kind of get in there and sort of round off, or I guess sort of pinch off the edges a little bit. So I'll kind of reshape it a little, and then sort of take a look at how wide I think it needs to be. Okay. I'm going to continue to kind of refine the shape of this thing. And the one thing about the lips is the more you can do sculpting them off of the face, I think the more successful you're going to be, because it's hard to get in there and kind of fix them and change them after they've already been sort of mushed in there. I'm going to see how that fits. It's pretty good. What I do want to do, though, is I want to kind of fix my upper lip before I really add it on, because it's hard to fix the upper lip when we've already attached it. Go a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of bring that into where it needs to be. And now, if you're doing a colored lower lip, we're going to have to add some material underneath it. All right, not just for the chin, but I'm not going to blend this into the face, because that's, defeats the purpose. We're going to lose the whole look of this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of clay, flesh colored clay. I'm going to roll it out. Just going to kind of flatten it a little bit with my fingers, and I'm just going to kind of tuck it underneath that lip. Okay. I'm going to go ahead on the outside edges. I can kind of blend that into my upper and lower cheeks. And then this one here, what I want to do is I want to kind of push this in and blend that into the chin. I want to be careful that I don't mess with the color part of the lips. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and press that in and blend that in and around it. Okay. She's going to need a little bit more chin underneath here. And we can always kind of like reshape this a little bit and kind of bring stuff up if necessary. Same thing. She doesn't have like dimples, but a little bit of the structure of her face, if you could see like right over here, pops out a little bit right over there. This is another place where we're going to want to take a little bit of material and kind of make a little piece that's going to sweep up into her cheeks. I'm going to add a little bit of that right now. And again, she doesn't have big, strong, deep, cheek muscles. Kind of blend that in. Same thing, I'm going to add a little bit of that to the other side and build a little bit more of her cheek on this side. And that is a mouth with color. All right, so those are my two. All right, those are my two over there. Again, two different ways. You don't have to add color or use it, but if you do want to, it's available. If you want to mix colors, you've got to mix at least some of that color with flesh tone clay. If you're doing darker tone skin, you mix it with the darker tone clay. That's all you have to do. If they're too bright or too vibrant, if the color of the lips is too bright, you can always add a little bit of brown or tan to it to kind of bring them down. and then do your best to try to keep things as symmetrical as possible. With that,